with special guest Lawrence Yufa. Today, he is the founder of Milwaukee Atheists. He is a YouTube sensation, up and coming. He's Aaron Rod Jr. I'm not sure he'll ever be quite big enough. That's a hunk of man there, that Aaron Rod. What do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm never going to be the kind of man that Aaron is.
Yeah, there's not enough. The leather that makes one of his chaps would make a whole outfit for you, I think. But Lawrence works real hard on the Atheist Sunday School. Check it out on YouTube. He's a sensation now. He's got over 1 million views. And how many subscribers, my friend?
I think we're at about 8,500 right now.
It wouldn't be a show about doubt without digging into maybe the most famous doubt story. When I went to church, it was, don't be a doubting Thomas, because meant to sort of quash the intellectual, questioning of, the ones who weren't just willing to accept the sheep food being shoved down their throats. Man, what do you know about that? Tell us where you find it. And
the general narrative exists in the Gospel of John. It is an authentic story. It's not like a later addition. Although it does, the character of Thomas does exist in every gospel. He is really pronounced as a doubter in the Gospel of John. There are 3 different places in which he talks. And all of them, at least the first 2, what's the word I'm looking for? They foreshadow the death and resurrection of Jesus. And it's kind of a neat literary tool if you think about it, if you have the doubting character saying this stuff.
Now that is irony!
The Doubting Thomas moniker comes from John chapter 20. And this is after Jesus has resurrected, and Thomas doesn't believe that he's resurrected.
It's just fucking bullshit.
He wants to see it. He wants to hear Jesus. Very real experiences. This is Erdman's Bible commentary. He's an example for the community of the way in which even one so incredulous, quote, could become not only a nominal Christian, but even one who makes a full and robust confession about Jesus.
That's the basic stuff that we all learned in Sunday school. What do you got that might be new to the casual fan of a doubting Thomas?
There is a gospel outside of the Bible, something that was left out because it was too Gnostic, it was too heretical, because some of the sayings in it didn't portray the view of Jesus that the proto-orthodoxy supported. So the Gospel of Thomas consists of 114 sayings of Jesus. There are no narratives in the story. There's nothing about what Jesus did or experienced, including his death and resurrection. The opening of the Gospel gives us some clues as to the character of the collection. These are the sayings of Jesus, the correct interpretation of which will lead to eternal life. The sayings aren't like in any specific order, they're more or less random. Some of them share very specific parallels with stuff in the Synoptic Gospels, the first 3 Gospels. So it's likely that whoever wrote that had access to those. So the title is The Gospel of Thomas. In the first verse, the author calls himself Didymus Judas Thomas. What's really neat is that Didymus means twin in Greek, and the word Thomas means twin in Aramaic. This tradition of having someone named twin is really interesting. Now, later traditions actually have this guy, Didymus Judas Thomas, be the actual twin of Jesus.
Say what?
That's who the author of the Gospel of Thomas wants you to think he is. He's not, because this dates to the early 2nd century. So any direct brother of Jesus would have been dead.
You're dead to me.
The interesting thing about how the twin is portrayed, not only in the Gospel of Thomas, but the counterpart version in the Gospel of John is in the Gospel of Thomas, you have an actual person, Didymus Judas Thomas, at least in the narrative sense. He is a physical person, but Jesus isn't there actually speaking to him. It's like a voice, kind of like in The Wizard of Oz. There's this disembodied voice. The Gospel of John is like the opposite of that. You have Jesus being the actual person and the embodiment of the word. So kind of combines those two narratives. It's likely that the Gospel of Thomas was built from a separate tradition than the tradition of the Synoptic Gospels.
In the end, is it really just kind of an admonishment against doubting in a way to keep people in line? You better believe the story.
It is certainly an attack against asking for evidence. We can kind of see this polemic against people who doubt. How can you doubt and still be a Christian? The reader at that time would have been meant to apply it to a sect that was actually soon to break off from the Johannine community, as is explicitly stated in 1 John. In John 20:25, doubting Thomas isn't prepared to just accept the witness of the group, demanding to see and touch as a precondition to belief.
Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence.
In 1 John, the Docetists are the specific opponents of the text. The Docetists, they were this group of early Christians that believed Jesus was a phantasm. He wasn't a physical human being. He was an illusion that came down to save us. He couldn't he couldn't be actual flesh because the flesh was tainted. Anything made by the God of this world was tainted and evil. So this perfect being, this Christ, could not touch any of it. So the specific use of hear and see as being ways to know things are played down. Like, this is how some people do it, and they are wrong for doing so. So there was already this group of doubters within the Johannine community, and this was kind of written as a polemic against them.
Isn't this really just the result of early efforts to control the liturgy of the church?
In some ways, yes. In other ways, it was an organic evolution or the combination of Greek Hellenism and apocalyptic Judaism. Both were very prominent at the time, and this is exactly what you'd expect if you combine the two. So in a way, it's meant to shape ideas, but in another way, it's actually meant to affirm ideas.